What does global trade and compliance actually mean?
Well, in the Postal Service, we actually have a new organization. It's called Global Trade Compliance, and it's rather broad. I mean, you can actually look at that in a number of ways. But okay, we start with our mailing regulations. Okay, which we've always had. You know, the package must be up to a certain weight or a certain size, and the address should be accurate and that type of thing. But now there are non-postal types of regulations. These regulations don't originate with the U.S. Postal Service. They're U.S. federal government types of regulations, often with the State Department or the Treasury Department or Commerce Department. And in the last couple of years, there have been some new regulations that have come into play concerning when a package is sent from the U.S., the address, the name and the address of the recipient, and even the sender must be bounced off what's called a denied party screening list. You know, sometimes it's in error, or it's possible that the package was actually okay.
So in Marc's shop, do you catch it before it goes over to Barry's shop?
No, that's really up to him. We provide the data.
Okay.
We have to collect data from the shippers in two ways. We first have to vet them with the TSA, so the shippers themselves have to be approved to export by the TSA. We're talking about putting packages on commercial airliners, so they're very careful about that. Once they're vetted by the TSA and approved, every shipment they send has to be accompanied by an electronic manifest, which is a customs manifest, and it indicates every single package in a consolidated shipment, who it's going to, what the contents are, what the value is. It's a customs declaration of sorts. And we submit that to the USPS when we bring the packages for export, and they're going to check that against the database that Barry had mentioned.
Okay.
So this is all under that original question of global trade compliance.
Exactly.
So it's multifaceted. And then there are other Treasury Department guidelines on the value of things that can, or of financial instruments. And I'm certainly not expert in this area.
I think Mary knows a little bit about this.
A little bit. I don't think anybody knows it all. But one of the things to remember is it's not just the U.S. government saying you can't do this. In some cases, it's the country on the other end saying we don't import Y.
Example, maybe?
A really strange one. You can't import salt to the Kingdom of Jordan. And also, Department of Treasury has a link of all of the sanctions programs and lists of individuals and companies and items and what is and is not allowed to be imported. In theory, before you make a sale, you're supposed to check the sanction list to make sure the company and the individual is not on that designated sanction list.
Going back to Mary's comment about there are certain types of items which cannot be sent to individual countries. The Postal Service has a resource. It's the International Mail Manual, which is basically the big rule book for international mail. But there is a section, and it's online.
Good.
But there is a part of the International Mail Manual which is called the individual country listings. Mm-hmm. So you can go to any country in the world, has a separate page. So you can go to Canada, and you will see the types of items that are not acceptable in Canada. And that isn't information that comes from the U.S. Postal Service. It's information that country provides, and then we just publish it as a ready reference. But and again, on the customs side of things, and maybe something we could have elaborated a little bit more a minute ago, is in regard to customs, there are customs thresholds. Which means that every country has a value at which the items above that value will be charged the duties and taxes for that country.
So does that mean I need to put the receipt in, or is this a matter of perception?
There is a value requested on the customs form, that's on the outside of the package, it is the commercial value. To Barry's point, it should be the commercial value, so if I'm selling somebody a book and that book is selling for $75, but it only cost me $10 to produce it, the value is not 10, the value is 75. Yeah. But some countries have very low thresholds. Canada
has a threshold of $20.
And what does that mean if I want to send something more than $20 worth?
You can certainly send it, but if it's over $20, the Canadian Customs Authority will apply the duties and taxes, to that item. If it's valued under $20, because it's not worth it to them, they would collect such a small amount that it's not worth the labor, to do that. And every country has a different customs, not every country, but they do vary considerably. So on the one extreme, it's funny, our two major, for USPS perspective, the two largest outbound destinations are Canada, number one, and then Australia, number
that's
two.
Interesting.
So Canada, the customs threshold is $20. So almost everything, will have a duty applied to it when it gets there. Australia, the number two country, their customs threshold is $1,000. Now it's 1,000 Australian, which has declined somewhat in value. It's about 900 roughly. But so there you see almost anything that would go through the Postal Service is under that value, and there is no duty or taxes applied to it. Inbound for the U.S., the customs threshold is $200.
I think you can also get a lot of customs information from the U.S. Department of Commerce if you're going to export and you want to know what the duty rates are and things. Sure. But it seems that most e-commerce companies today don't spend a lot of time worrying about that unless they're sending really expensive items.
Yeah.
From what we see, and if you look on their websites, they make it very clear that the consumer is responsible for any duty and tax that's due. So that becomes a function of the person who buys it needs to know what's going on.
Foreign parcel delivery incoming to the UK that found that 70% of the rejections were due to customs. And I'm hearing rejection problems with that.
So if 70% of the rejections are due to customs, can I guess that the other 30% is due to address quality?